Welcome to the Village News in Review. I am your host, Adrianne Shropshire, and it would not be a Newsweek in Review without my co-host, Anoa Changa-Peck.
Hey y'all, there's always a lot happening, and we're here to make sure you got the latest issues important to our communities.
So, as Anoa said, there's always a lot going on. And here at the Village News, we are tracking news stories all day, every day, all throughout the week. But we also recognize that everyone is not doing that. People have lives, they have things that they want to do that are not just sitting in front of news screens, and reading newspapers. If people even do that anymore, Anoa, I don't know.
I'm in
Um,
Atlanta. We don't even have our paper record in print anymore, so I have no clue.
Well, there you go. So local newspapers are not even there for us anymore. But Anoa and I thought that what we would do to try and help keep people up on what's happening, particularly as we head into the last 100 days or so of this midterm election cycle, we will scour the news every week. And on Fridays, we will bring to you the highlights so that you don't have to feel like you missed an entire week of news. So let's just get into it. Anoa, normally I would
Yeah.
ask you what's the most bonkers thing that happened this week, and ask you to share not only what was most bonkers, but things that people might have missed. But I'm going to just jump right in, actually, and talk about a thing that people might have missed, but is also completely bonkers. And that is that the State Department this week issued essentially what is a McCarthyism styled Red Scare report on the country of Cuba. And essentially claiming, the report essentially claims that Cuba is responsible for all of the activism, all of the pushback against authoritarianism, all of the social movements that have happened in America from ever. Uh, which seems insane on itself, but it is, it lists a bunch of activists and elected officials that apparently are Cuban operatives. I'm going to name some of them because the list itself makes it clear how outrageous, dangerous, and sort of a throwback to the 1950s this report is. So it's a targeted list of people and a targeted list of organizations that span the gamut of social justice movements, but also completely made up organizations. And we'll talk about that. It includes my mayor, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. It also includes the former mayor of Los Angeles, Antonio Villaraigosa. It includes the entire BLM movement, because why not? It includes former San Francisco DA, and I always get this name wrong, DA Chesa Boudin. It includes, of course, New York City's Mayor Zoran Mamdani, because he is apparently, the boogeyman for them. It
I mean,
includes
did you see his recent speech? He definitely is the
I,
boogeyman for
I
somebody.
did. It includes Ben Cohen of Ben and Jerry's Ice Cream. And of course, it includes the completely made up Antifa, right? And this idea that Antifa is some kind of structured organization that is, organizing people across the country is complete nonsense. But this report is full of propaganda. It's full of over the top language. And it really does harken back to the McCarthyism era of the 1950s, where essentially the government, built up this Red Scare, essentially saying communism is everywhere, which is precisely, if people are paying attention, what the Trump administration is saying right now. They need a villain. Right. They need
Yep.
a villain for the midterms.
Yep.
And apparently just calling Democrats dummies is not enough. So they've created this Red Scare that communism is everywhere. It's lurking in the bushes. And everyone that they don't like is a communist. Same thing they said about Martin Luther King, right? But that was this thing that came out that I'm not entirely sure that people paid attention to, but it is a part and parcel of this authoritarian tendency
Yeah.
that this administration, sort of demonstrates every day.
I appreciate you bringing this up because this probably would have been the weird thing. And it's really not weird. It's definitely wild. Like we have, when we think back, because it was a bunch of Black thinkers, academics, a lot of entertainers and culture workers, right? So Paul Robeson, Du Bois, Lorraine Hansberry, and one of my personal favorites, jazz musician Hazel Scott. She was the first person to have to host a national TV show, I think it was. And so like we have seen like this in history, but it's not even that it's it's a continuation of something that never went away because they've
Right.
always tried to blame Black activism, the advocacy, and anything they tried to shift and deal with the way the government oppressed or just did not honor people's rights and freedoms on someone else, right?
Yeah.
Whether it was Russia, but it's always like the Red Scare, the communists. It's a way to scare the good people, red, white, into not associating with any of us, right? And it's also it's weird, right, Adrian? Because it's also a mix of the pot calling the kettle black right now type of thing. Considering like it's also framing Cuba as being this intrusive, destabilizing force in
Yeah.
Latin America.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's
For
just
when at a time when the Cuban people don't have
yeah,
electricity, at a time where the Cuban people are hungry, right,
yeah,
because of the intensified American blockade, um,
yeah.
the idea that either the people or the government of Cuba are in any position to be threatening anyone is completely absurd, right?
Well, they have the resources to do
Well,
so,
yeah,
right?
their electrical grid is non-existent, right? So this idea is absurd, and again, just is a demonstration of the degree to which the GOP, the Trump administration, MAGA. Well, I don't think it's actually three different things at this point, right? It's just one. Need a villain as they continue to spiral. As heading into the midterm elections. And so now it's this weird communist scare
Yeah.
that again is very dangerous. You talked about the history of this, right? And you named a bunch of Black folks, both thinkers and entertainers. And I will say that this list to me, when I saw it, I thought, oh, it's a whole bunch of Black people on here. So this idea that whoever they decide are their political enemies need to get tagged with something, so that the country will look at them suspiciously. It's also just in the era of political violence. This
Yeah.
is not a moment to be tagging people and saying these people are our enemies, because we have seen what happens when particularly this administration labels people. People get harassed, they get unalived, right? And so, so this is particularly dangerous, and I don't know, a harbinger, in some ways, of what is to come.
And we know the way the law is set up too, the way the Trump administration has been trying to set up with like EOs and different, what is it, the MPSM 7, I think, like claiming that if there's aid to terrorism and trying to
Right.
reclassify what domestic
Yeah.
terrorism actually is, right?
Right.
We've seen even some of the billionaire class, right? Like folks who get upset about people protesting at like data centers and things like that, trying to say that the fundamental First Amendment right of free speech, of the right to protest, is terrorism. So
Right.
like this stands alone as
Yeah.
one thing, but when we look at the totality of everything that's happening under the Trump administration, and no, it's not new in America, but the way this is coming together right now in the 21st century is definitely something that we need to have eyes on.
Right.
Or at least know, because you might not think that you're a political person or you might not think that you're connected to anything radical, but if the government is labeling people like
What if they decided? Yeah.
I didn't know Karen Bass was the West Coast Mom Donnie. Um, but
Well,
when she's more
I
DSA
think
than
Karen.
DSA.
Let's be clear. Karen Bass was Mamdani before Mamdani was
Before
Mamdani.
Donnie,
So,
we got the pictures to prove it of young Karen with the afro and the
well, we
bullhorn
have the pictures to prove it with her policies. I
with her
think
policies.
just the
But I was just
policies
thinking
that
about
she's
even in the
implemented in
report,
LA.
like they went back to 1970 pictures of a young Karen Bass and
Yeah,
other prominent.
except for if I can just say, Anoa, that is not Karen Bass in the 1970s. So color block, we did not have color block blouses and dresses until the 1980s. So that they pulled a picture of Karen
Oh,
Bass from the
come on, Adrian,
1980s
with the
and said,
disinfo.
this is Karen Bass in 1970. Karen Bass
Break it down.
may have in fact been a cheerleader on her high school cheer team in 1970. Like I'm not, I need to do the math, but that is not Karen Bass from the 1970s, that picture that they included, which is
I
also just a like, you're bad at your job. You
You're
know,
bad at your
you're
job.
bad
It's
at
like
your
AI.
job.
AI. They check their history AI. But this is why they want to erase the history. This is why they've been doing so much of what they've been doing, so that we can't check them like this, so that we can't actually like make these connections. And we also can't learn the lessons from how people were able to weather those storms and get reforms and push back. You know, just
Yeah.
thinking about these types of moves, along with trying to claim people are a part of the new communist wave, is part of how they're trying to like really destabilize and, um, take power, and just
Yeah.
demoralize us. So
This Cuba story, though, starts to turn things on its head, right? This
yeah,
idea that, there's this new wave of, threat to the U.S. We know an escalation from, as you were saying before,
yeah,
kind of an escalation from this attempt at investigating social justice organizations. We've seen organizations be called in to hearings, right? We
yeah,
saw SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, get called in for their apparently their hate work, which is essentially bringing down hate groups in America. And so there's this sort of turning on its head kind of thing, that this idea that what we have all fought for, right? What our community certainly has fought for to push back, to end discriminatory practices, right? To end the restriction of rights or the not even offering of rights to whole classes of people in America. All of those things that we fought for, suddenly those things are wrong, right?
right,
And one of the stories that sort of uh, is a perfect display of the absolute nonsense that happened this week. And again, not sure that people noticed it, was a decision out of the Fifth Circuit that essentially that was about a school district in Louisiana that had a civil rights
hmm
investigation happening. And that investigation is essentially saying that the school district has not desegregated and that it must desegregate because, of course, Brown v. Board was in 1954, which means that all schools should have desegregated by now. But no, school districts have not completely desegregated and in many ways are resegregating. Anyway, the Fifth Circuit essentially said, yeah, no, you don't have to desegregate. You can keep all white schools if you'd like. And so this is when we think about the kinds of court decisions that are literally moving forward, Project 2025,
yeah,
literally moving forward this administration and this MAGA movement's effort to take us back to the days of Jim Crow. This court decision sits squarely in that agenda. And so I want to talk about that a little bit more because it's a really critical decision that we should be paying attention to because it has implications for more than just a school district in Louisiana. And to do that, I want to bring in our good friend, movement lawyer, and sort of extraordinary brain, Judith Brown Dianis, to talk to us about sort of what this case means.